Since many years, I'm applying inner work, not only to my own life, but also in the work with my clients. And the framework that influences my work the most is Jung's idea of individuation. Because that is not something you only teach in classrooms or in an intellectual context, but it's something you can apply in your daily life. Things like shadow work, individuation, and also dream analysis have been part of my own personal laboratory. But the one that's probably the most powerful is something I was struggling with over the years, and that is dream journaling. I've done it on and off over many years, but I never did it really consistent. It was more like sporadically taking notes when something felt really clear and something felt worth exploring deeper. But most of the time I didn't really see the big importance that the dreams have for me. And I also didn't understand clearly the message that they're sending. But all of that changed like 10 weeks ago when I did a 12-day fast, because there suddenly the dreams became much more intensive and vivid. And I used this fact actually to dig deeper into this topic and to improve my skills and also the understanding of my dreams. So what happened was that during the fast and also the keto phase that followed after, and in total we're talking here about a phase of like 5-6 weeks, my dreams suddenly became incredibly vivid and in a way much more realistic. They were almost like movies where I was the main actor, and the good point was I also could remember them very accurately after I woke up. So what was different is the dreams were more colorful, there were more emotions involved, and they had also much more details. And this fact actually led to the decision that I will give it another try. And this time I will use it much more in a profound way. And since the beginning of this fast, which was actually, it started end of November 25, I committed to daily dream journaling without excuses. So every morning, no matter how fragmented or strange, I try to write everything down that I remember. And I'm doing also a kind of an interpretation of that after. And today I want to share what I've discovered so far and why dream journaling and interpretation is actually so difficult and feels a little bit strange in the beginning, but why it's actually one of the most powerful tools on your individuation journey. So get ready, this is not something from the textbooks, this is really lived experience, and I hope that it's helpful for you. And let me get started by explaining you the method I'm using for dream journaling and interpretation. Everything is actually based on Robert Johnson's book Inner Work, which in itself is based to a large part on the work on Carl Jung and others in this field. And if you want to get started, I can really recommend this book because that's a guide that helps to structure the process without making it too complicated, without going too much into depth psychology. It's simple and grounded and nothing fancy. It's just like a workbook with a clear process on how to get started. And the first step in the process is actually writing down your dreams. And this is the first thing in the morning, immediately after we wake up. So what I'm doing, I'm going to my office because my wife doesn't like it when I turn on the light and I start to write in the bed because it wakes her up because I stand up pretty early. But if you have the chance to do it in the bed, it's even better because the more time between waking up and the actual writing, the higher is the chance that you forget some important details. And for me, it's even more complicated because if I go down into my office, we have 2 cats in the house and they're really hungry at this time in the morning. So the first thing is I have to feed the cats. So honestly, my process is not ideal, but that's what I have. And again, I mean, life is not a laboratory. We just have to take what we have, and that's how I do it. So I lose about 10 minutes between my waking up and going to write the dreams, but it's actually sufficient to catch a large amount of details of my dreams. Another thing you can do is while you're waking up, while you're in the process of waking up, that's what I'm doing to help me to remember these things better. So if you're in this phase between waking and half being asleep, try to stay in the dream, even if you're awake. Try to keep the dream alive. Try to think about it. What's happening there? Look at the characters. Look at the details. Where are you? What's going on? It's a simple method. Just stay after you wake up like for 5 or 10 minutes in your bed. Don't wake yourself completely up. Just trying to extend the dream a little bit more. And by that, try to keep your memory fresh. So when you're writing down your dreams, there are a few rules to that. First of all, don't censor yourself. Just write down whatever comes to your mind. You don't need to do any editing. You don't need to do any analyzing at this point. Just write down the raw details and try to get as many details as possible. Who are the persons that appear in your dream? What's the scene? Is it like a movie or more like a still image? Do you see different colors? And also, where is the situation? Is it in the house of your parents? Is it where you currently live? Is it at your workplace, in your office? These are all important details that you should remember. And don't be shy if it's confusing or embarrassing. That's normal because dreams are not speaking in our normal language. They speak to us in symbols, and we'll come to that later. So let me just give you an example of one of my dreams that I had. Actually, I think it was the first dream I had when I started the fasting, and it was already very realistic. So what happened was I was in a classroom and the teacher was a former boss, and he asked me to come to the blackboard and to solve a task. Now, one thing that was strange is that I was naked. So I came to the board and I tried to solve the task. Actually, the task was to connect two dots with a line. So in the dream, I felt a little bit shy because I understood that I was naked and all the other persons in the room were actually dressed, right? So I had this feeling of being exposed. But that's actually a very typical symbol in dreams, that you're naked. And that can mean different things. I think for me, it meant that I put down my mask, I put down my persona that I'm representing in my life, especially in my corporate life. And in this situation, I was my raw self. So it was actually a positive thing. Again, write down whatever comes to your mind, don't judge it, and then leave it for a while. Don't start directly the interpretation, just go on with your daily task. Get your coffee, get your breakfast, go to work, whatever you have to do, and come back to your recordings later. The second step that I did, and that is also explained in Inner Work, is you have to understand the different symbols in your dream. Because as I mentioned, dreams are not talking to you in a logic language, in a rational language that you can understand. You need to analyze the symbols that it's presenting for you. Like for me, for example, the symbols were the nakedness. There was my former boss was a symbol. This could be like a higher hierarchy archetype. It could be a symbol for my father, so like a parental figure. And the other thing that was for me in the dream was also the task. Like there was a task to connect two dots with a line. That's also a very powerful symbol. So we need to understand what it means. And when it comes to understand symbols, there's always a general explanation, like for example about the nakedness. But this is not very useful for you, because you need to make the connection with your own life. For everybody, this symbol of nakedness can mean something different. It really depends on your experience, on your situation in life. So write down these different symbols that were in your dream and then try to understand them. Not from a generalistic theoretical view, but what could they mean in your life? And to which situation in which you are in right now could this symbol apply? And what would make the most sense? And how you can do that is usually in a kind of a brainstorming way. Take a piece of paper, write in the middle the dream symbol, like for example in my case the nakedness, and then think about it, write some bubbles around it. What can this mean for you in your situation? Don't censor yourself, don't hold yourself back. Just write down whatever comes to your mind. And when you're finished with that, when you take maybe 5 or 10 minutes to complete this, to try to understand this symbol, then you can have a look on it and just listen to yourself. Which of the interpretations makes the most sense for you and which one seems the most likely? And usually this is a very good starting point. The next step is what Robert Johnson calls amplification. And this is where I start to explore broader meanings from old myth, from stories, from culture. Because this is what Jung calls the collective archetypes. And here I'm widening the lens beyond just my personal experiences. For instance, authority figures, like my boss, they might symbolize suppressed power dynamics. In this phase, you can also look for archetypes. This is usually also where the shadow comes into play, and the shadow is representing your rejected parts. And I try to understand which persons or which symbols in my dream could represent such an archetype. In my series of dreams, for example, that I had during the fast, so actually during the fast, I didn't analyze only a single dream, right? It was more like a series of dreams with partly repeating patterns, but the series also built on each other. And I could see a progression in the dreams. And in this series, my shadow often showed up as rivals or also as situations where I was cheating or where I was trying to cheat something. And this is actually highlighting parts that I have pushed away from my past. So over time, what I did, let's say after 1 week, after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, I'm doing an interpretation not only of a single dream, but of the series. And especially of symbols that appear more and more over time, because this actually hints to something important. And that's actually all you need to get started. So you see, dream analysis and dream interpretation is not rocket science, and you don't need to be an expert in depth psychology or in mythology. That's something I thought for many years I need to have that. But actually what's important is listen to your gut feeling, listen to your intuition, what certain symbols mean. And I can promise you they will show you interesting insights into your life and into your current situation. But it's also important to see this method not only as something to get a quick answer for a problem that you have right now. It's more like a dialogue with your unconscious. And that means it's building over time. And you're growing over time, and you're understanding yourself better over time. And by that, you can ultimately make better decisions. So after I did it for like 6 weeks, I got really a clear insight from these dreams. It was like my unconscious is telling me a single story. It was about facing what's hidden in my shadow to claim real freedom. So let me walk you quickly through that, how this really unfolded. It actually started in the first night with exposure. I had some of my old bosses from my corporate past appearing in my dreams. Like in the dream I mentioned in the beginning, right? And in this dream, I also could feel the judgment from the other people because I was naked, they were not. That meant I stripped away something and I didn't really fit into this situation anymore. And that's where this judgment came from. And then what happened in the dream is when my boss asked me to draw this line between the 2 points, he asked me to do this in another language. And I didn't understand, which put me in an even more awkward situation. So I was standing there naked, very exposed, and everyone's eyes were piercing through me. But the good thing that happened in the stream was one of my colleagues that was sitting in the classroom, he was helping me. He was translating that for me. So the dream turned actually in a very positive direction because I got support for my decision. And then 2 days later, the same boss appeared again in my dream. I was working as a waiter in a restaurant that reminds me a pizzeria of my childhood. And my boss and his girlfriend orders a pizza and something to drink. But suddenly there were a lot of people coming into the restaurant and want to drink something, so I get a little bit stressed. And when I want to serve the drinks to the people, I suddenly notice that all the glasses in the cupboard are dirty. And they're also all in different shapes, so I don't know which one to serve them. I'm feeling unprepared and disorganized and again exposed. Because everyone could see that I don't know what I'm doing. So do you know what this dream was trying to tell me? I firmly believe that I overcame this competitiveness that I had during my corporate days and that I overcame it. But through the dream, my unconscious was actually saying, no, you're still performing. You're still afraid of being exposed. And that's what I was not aware of. And this is exactly what is shadow work about. Understanding the bad or the weak parts that we tried to reject. And actually in the following days and weeks, it got even more interesting. I continued to dream about former bosses, about corporate life, about my former office. And each dream gave me a little bit more information, a little bit more insight into what I was still suppressing. And then after a while, also my family and my son and my father came into the dreams. And this is also something very important because it gives you information about your relationships. And also actually, if something like that appears in your dream, let's say your father appears in your dream or your son, it doesn't mean you literally mean your father and your son. It could be also the father part in yourself or the little child within yourself. Because many times the persons within your dream, they're just parts of yourself and they're trying to express something. You shouldn't see dreams always literally. And the most powerful it actually gets when you're starting to combine all the symbols. That's what I did after 6 weeks. So I sat down and I read through everything, through all the symbols that appeared, all the different stories that showed up, and also the progression and the development over time. And at first, many of the dreams looked very different and separate. Like there was exposure, there was chaos, there was family. But then it suddenly clicked. I made the connection. The dreams were not separate. They were one story. Actually, they were my life story. And it was my unconscious that was showing me what I need to integrate. The exposure, for example, that was the shadow of competitiveness I rejected in my corporate days. It was the part of me that felt rivalries but suppressed them. The chaos that showed up, these were weak boundaries, where I've avoided saying no because saying yes was more comfortable. Where I've let my work and my family blur because standing firm felt too risky. And the family judgment, that shows avoidance. That's the fear of being seen during transition. The fear that I'm not worthy of this new path. And the truth about all of them is they're all rejected parts, all rejected shadows that I've been avoiding. And through the dreams, my unconscious is saying, it's screaming, you need to integrate these. Claim your true autonomy. And that's the task here. And I think especially today, in our AI-shaken world, where the jobs vanish overnight, and the society shifts so fast, this is very important to build resilience. It's about turning vulnerability into strengths. And it's also about claiming autonomy when everything external is uncertain. So if you're considering doing also this practice, and I can highly recommend it, is here's what I've learned in the 6 weeks to make it easier for you. The most important thing is to get started. And remember, dream journaling builds cumulatively. It's not one dream or one night that makes the difference. It's also not that every dream is important. Some dreams are more important, some dreams are less important. The point is you usually don't know which one is important until you really analyze and understand them. Dream journaling is like training a muscle. And here are a few tips to make it easier for you. First of all, don't overanalyze the dreams. It kills your intuition. The most important thing is to just write them down. And write them as raw as possible. And remember, even silly dreams matter. Actually, there are no silly dreams. Maybe they seem silly to our conscious life, but they're all valid and they're all important. And be consistent. Write something every morning. Even if you have a blank night, even if you don't remember, there's always something that you remember, even if it's just one sentence. For me, it's also different. Sometimes I write just a few lines. And some nights I can write 2-3 pages full of details. And if you want to make your dreams more realistic, more vivid, you should try to change something in your behavior. Because usually, if we're in our daily lives and we don't push ourselves a little bit into uncomfortable situations, the dreams are not very intense. So for me, usually my dreams become most intense like in phases like this, fasting. Or if you do some hard exercise before you go to sleep, or if you do a long walk, just getting out of the comfort zone, because that is something that amplifies the dreams drastically. And for better integration, try also active imagination. That's a technique I will talk about in one of the next videos. There you actually have a dialogue with your dream figure on paper and while you're awake. And you're asking the person from your dream, hey, what do you want from me? And keep in mind, understanding and listening to your dreams is about building a relationship with your unconsciousness. It's not about perfection. It's all about you. And check out Robert Johnson's book, Inner Work, because that makes it very structured while staying personal. And if you need help and if you want a simple dream journal and shadow work starter kit based on Johnson's approach, check out the link below. There you find a free shadow work starter kit that I developed for myself and that I'm sharing it now with you. And it helps you with your dream interpretation and it helps you to stay consistent. I hope you get some good insights into my dreams. Don't forget to subscribe. I will continue to share some of my dreams as more patterns evolve. But most important, start to listen what emerges. And if you remember dreams, even fragments, start writing them down today. It's one of the most powerful things to do on your individuation journey. So have a great day and have wonderful dreams. Thank you.